Heads up, here's someone who's there in the trenches marketing an MSP day in, day out. There's no better way for you to find the right ideas to market your business than listening to other people who have shovels in their hand and are doing it right now. Let's explore what he's done over the last 3 years and which great ideas you can take away and implement quickly.
Hi, I'm Dan Grech. I'm the founder and CEO of BizHack Academy, and we are a marketing training and consulting company, and we provide fractional CMO services to MSPs around the world.
And thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Dan. You've got an amazing story to tell about an MSP that you've been working with for 3 years. You've taken them from literally zero marketing to a nice, complex marketing machine that's really delivering results for them. So we're going to look at what you've done that's worked well, what you've tried that didn't work, and then let's have a look at what you're thinking of doing with them for the next 3 years. Before we tell that story, let's find out a little bit about you. What's your background? How did you get into this wonderful world of marketing MSPs?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this story of one MSP. We work with many different MSPs, but the story of this particular MSP, we're not going to mention their name, is, I think, really illustrative of the opportunity and the challenges of marketing your MSP online. It's a very crowded space. MSPs tend to be Me Too businesses. In other words, there's a lot of competition that looks very similar on the surface. And we've developed some really good lessons and best practices that we hope that all of your MSPs who are listening can share. My background actually is as a journalist. I spent 15 years in the United States working for NPR and PBS and the Miami Herald and the Washington Post. And I was a storyteller, basically. I even got my master's degree in it. In storytelling. And then about 10 years ago, like so many other journalists, lost my job, had to reinvented myself first as a digital marketer, then as a trainer of digital marketing, because I love to train people in what I want to learn. I love to learn by teaching, if you will. And then finally, as a business owner, starting my own training and consulting company, which I've been running now for almost 10 years, BizHack Academy. And one of the services that we provide is fractional CMO services. This is a part-time outsourced head of marketing, basically providing thought partnership to the CEO and helping oversee and lead a team of marketers and agencies in support of accomplishing the CEO's vision. Most MSP heads are technical people. They're very operationally focused. And generally speaking, they're terrible at marketing. And so it's really important that most MSPs that are looking to grow have someone in that seat, that head of marketing role, who can help them filter all their good ideas and then make sure that the team is executing against the best ones. And over the course of these 3 years, we've learned a lot of lessons about what works and what doesn't, and I'm excited to share that journey. And we're just right now, as we plan for next year, we're recording this in December, right before the new year, 2025. We're now actually creating our next 3-year strategy because we have had so much success over these 3 years building a great foundation.
Yeah, so what kind of situation was the MSP in when you first started working with them? So they must have had a website, right? They must have had a LinkedIn presence, but was that it? Were they doing any marketing at all?
So first of all, this MSP has 3 divisions, and I think this is really important. Because in one sense, I would almost say that this MSP didn't follow necessarily marketing best practices because they had such a large Chinese menu of services. So the first service they offer is security and access control. So these are like cameras, access, control for garages and doors, like physical installations. Second, they offered unified communications. So this is like VoIP. And then third, they offer IT managed services, which includes things like cybersecurity. It's a massive field. So one of the biggest challenges that we faced early on was you have these 3 divisions, right? And most of the products, the services, the vendors that they work with weren't even listed on their website. So I described internally, I would say it's like you guys are a Chinese food restaurant where you don't even list everything on your menu. So that was one big issue. As far as the website itself, this was the worst website situation I'd ever seen. They were using some old platform, I don't even remember the name, that wasn't indexed or indexable by Google.
Wow.
They were like literally invisible on the internet. So though they had a 35-year history, in this case, they were like invisible online. In terms of the marketing that they were doing at the time, they had one individual who is sort of like their social media video person. And then they had a couple of divisional salespeople for each of the three divisions who also oversaw kind of marketing communications. And so the very first thing that we did with them is we ran all three of them, as well as the CEO, through a training program. And this served a couple of really important functions. Number one is it gave them a shared language for marketing. At BizHack Academy, we call it the lead building system. And I think it's worth just quickly talking about what is the lead building system, because it's a really simplified form of marketing that's very relevant to MSPs. So at the foundation of the lead building system is your business story. This is the owner, the founder's reason for starting the company and the purpose of the company in the world. So it's why you do what you do and why it matters. And I'd love to dig into that a little bit and how defining the owner's business story was an unlocking mechanism for growth for this company. That's the foundation, right? It's, ultimately people only do business with people they like and trust. But if you're actually looking to generate leads, there are 6 pillars. You need to identify what is the campaign objective? How are we going to measure success? Are you looking to get them to watch a video, click on a link, open an email, etc.? Then you need to really narrowly identify your target audience and give them an irresistible offer. For most MSPs, you're really offering them knowledge in exchange for their contact information. So you're establishing yourself as an expert and then ultimately, ideally, collecting their contact information, email and phone number, so you can follow up with them. That's the core of strategy. Who's your audience and what are you giving them of value in exchange for their contact info? Next is thumb-stopping visuals and compelling messaging. That's the essence of tactical marketing. Images, videos, audio, text, right? And obviously leveraging AI to the hilt to do that. Those are pillars 4 and 5. And then pillar 6 is the customer journey, the buyer's journey. How do they go from never having heard of you to a sale? And each campaign takes them on a next step in their customer journey. And so it's an iterative process. You run an ad that leads them to click on a button and takes them to a landing page, right? So the objective of the ad is clicks. Then on the landing page, they fill out a form. So the objective of the landing page is form fills, right? And it's iterative like that. And then now they've given you their email address. The objective of them is to open the email and book a call and so forth. And so you do this like iterative process, and this is how you market.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's obviously taken you 3 years. Well, I can see why it's taken you 3 years because there's a lot of stuff in there. You've built an entire marketing platform. So in terms of results, go back 3 years when they had an unindexable website, which I've never heard of in 2025. That's nuts. But where were they getting their leads from? Was it just word of mouth? Was it just doing some networking locally? And then today, what kind of a difference is there? Is it a reliable amount of leads coming in? Do they have a reliable amount of discovery calls booked? What's the difference from before to after?
They'd been in business for 35 years. And so they were getting the business, and they still get most of their business in ways that are going to be familiar to any MSP through personal networking and referrals. The problem was they were losing a lot of business that would get referred to them, would check out their online presence, would say, this isn't a serious company, too small, not a good risk to take. Because one of the things about MSPs is MSPs are basically CYAs, right? Like they are the head of IT for a company, the chief information officer of a company is looking to hire a partner for an MSP that's going to make them not look bad, that's going to keep things working, that's going to largely be invisible. And then when things go wrong, will be immediately accessible and available to them. So it's a very heavy on risk kind of vendor relationship. And if you aren't really on point with your digital presence, they're going to disqualify you. And so this is an invisible cost to a poor digital presence. You need a good functioning website, a decently active presence on social media. It's not necessarily going to, a good blogs, ideally some really good educational content. It's not going to necessarily close you the business, but it will lose you the business. So that was the first thing, is like building up that platform so that they weren't losing the business that was already coming to them. It was all manual. It was all about them, going, networking. They were in 3 different markets. They had 3 different divisions. They had a pretty large sales team. It was very much of a sales-driven company. And marketing was at best just kind of trickling out some email. Now, email and social media. So now, fast forward 3 years, I'm actually looking at their data right now. They have dramatically increased. They have more than 1,200 backlinks, which are different, links from other organizations sending to their site. We're on the track now to make that 20,000 backlinks over the next 3 years. They have a authority score from nothing to 16. We're going to have that up to 40 over the next 3 years. And their organic traffic, which was literally like in the dozens when we first met, is now breaking 5,000 per month, on its way to 50,000 and beyond. We're right now in the early stages of the L curve, the hockey stick of growth. Because SEO in particular is very much a long-term additive strategy. In addition to building out, our goal over the first 3 years, which we hit, was to build out 1,000 articles and landing pages. We have a landing page now for every item on that Chinese menu. In other words, every product or service that they have, every vendor they work with will have pages, and often multiple pages. And there'll be localized versions of each of those pages for the geographies that they serve. Because as you know, a lot of search is, best, communications or best VoIP provider in Chicago, best VoIP provider in Boise. So you need those geographically specific landing pages. And so this is a massive undertaking to get everything on their website listed, with accuracy and length. And so a big part of those 3 years was just getting that Chinese menu with geographically localized pages onto the website. And then we also did a ton with email, acquiring lists, generating lists through our content. And then finally, social media has primarily been just kind of showing that the company's alive. We have the technicians sending photos before and after as part of the due diligence process. And then we post those photos, and they do shockingly well. People love seeing messy cords turned into clean cords. So the before and afters do really well for us. So that's kind of the social media. And then, of course, PPC, paid advertising. And that's a challenge. It's expensive, but it's the primary driver to date of new business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously all that work you've done over the last 3 years, putting in place the basics, the solid basics, is going to contribute. Well, I'm sure it's going to contribute more in the next 3, 4, 5 years ahead. 2 very quick final questions for you, Dan. First of one, you mentioned earlier on about the business owner's story. I just wanted to pick up on that and just close that loop if we could. And secondly, just give us a sneak preview of some of the ideas that you're thinking about doing with this MSP over the next 3 years.
Absolutely. So if I could give one takeaway to your MSPs, this is the single marketing tip that will make the biggest difference in the speed of your growth. And it's almost counterintuitive, which is talk more about yourself, right? Everything in marketing it's all about them. It's all about solving the customer's pain points. But you have to remember, if they're the hero, if they're the Luke Skywalker, you as the business owner are the Jedi Knight who is going to help them become the hero they're meant to be. They don't just hire anybody off the street. They hire someone that they like and they trust. And how do you build liking and trusting? It's through a personal story. And so identifying why you do what you do, why you are personally committed and dedicated to being an MSP, to providing these services, to helping solve the technology challenges of your clients, why you have that sort of servant mentality, describing where they came from, who taught you to value service, how you started your career, the startup story of your company, and then who you serve and why you serve them and why you love to serve them. Those are all things that will take a boutique MSP and help them stand out from the crowd, because it's a very crowded and undifferentiated space. And if you do not speak to who the owner is and why he or she does what she does, you will lose business. So that is my number one growth tip. Now, in terms of what we're going to do over the next 3 years. So first of all, aligned with that is we're going to position the CEO as a thought leader in his industry. We're going to get very noisy about that online. We're running webinars and webinar series. We're then cutting them up to create social video. We're partnering with vendors. We actually, the company bought a Cybertruck, and we're actually partnering with vendors and doing Cybertruck demo videos using the vendors. So we're doing all sorts of creative campaigns like that. We're leveraging social media like Imager, IMGUR is a platform, Reddit, Quora. So all of those platforms we're expanding into. In these first 3 years, we just didn't have the resources to do that. Now we have the bandwidth to do that. And we are doubling down on SEO. Accelerating the content creation, doing it in the niches and the keywords that we know are winnable through our research, and then really focusing our paid on the security division, which we know is the most winnable, the least competitive, and the one that when they come in from the security division, they tend to get upsold into the IT services and the unified communications. And so, being really smart about where we're spending our advertising dollars to maximize. We also are finding incredible results from Bing ads, which is a much cheaper and less competitive marketplace. And, it's all really on a foundation of content creation, being an expert, creating videos and blog posts that answer the specific questions that IT professionals have. The analogy is just like people go to YouTube to learn techniques to fix their sink or do some home improvement. MSP clients are doing similar things, except with their more advanced technologies. And so if you can be that person that they see giving that expert advice, you're positioned to win that sale.
We are getting you back on this show in 2028 so we can hear what's happened at the end of the 6 years. Maybe we should just get you on every 3 years. Dan, just for those MSPs that want to have a chat with you, see if maybe your fractional CMO services are something that would sit well with them, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, thank you. So go to BizHack, BIZHACK.com, and they'll see at the top that one of our services is fractional CMO services, and they should book a call with me, and I'm happy to talk to them. We have more than 80 fractional CMOs. We work with dozens of MSPs around the country. We have a deep expertise in exactly what they need and how to approach it, and we will help you grow faster.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.